Alright, what is going on YouTube? Fire versus Slam. This is the round of 16s in Red Bull Wololo 4 qualifiers. It is the main event. The winner gets into the final round to play in the deciders. This was a set that was originally scheduled for Saturday, but was ended up being postponed. We're casting recorded games in early Sunday over here. By early, I mean it's 6 a.m. my time, and I have another best of 5 and 4 best of 7s to cast today, so I might be exhausted by the end of that. But here's the draft. We have, oops, something is messed up with the maps over here. Runestones should be in the middle. Oh yeah, that's correct. So let me fix that. And Acclivity, Frigid Lake are the home maps of Fire, Mountain Range, Meadow are the home maps of Slam. We will have Tatars, Aztecs, Britons, Franks, Saracens, and Huns available for Fire, and Ethiopians, Berbers, Mayans, Magyars, Chinese, and the Indians for Slam. Let's go right into game number 1 over here. So welcome to Red Bull Wololo 4 qualifiers. We'll have Slam as Britons on the right side in red, and on the left side in yellow we will have Mayans for Fire in yellow. The other sets will be casted after this one, so while originally they were scheduled to overlap with this one in terms of casting, they will not overlap, so it will be one by one. And we will start with Fire versus Slam over here. So Mayans versus Britons, a civilization matchup that is heavily favoring Mayans until like post-Imperial or so. The ability to switch into early egos is a very nice thing. There is some versatility element as well for Mayans, so in general I like this civilization a lot more than Britons for this map over here. Also, the fact that you can mix in egos in Feudal Age alongside your archers and skirmishers actually helps quite a bit. You see that you already have another eagle coming in here for Fire. He's going for the Veil pick over here. Shouldn't be able to do it because there is going to be a scout here for Slam. Slam actually went for both eco upgrades, double badax and horse color. Other side, we don't have horse color for Fire over here. Instead, he goes for the early skirmisher play, sort of expecting the archer play from the opponent, and that could allow him to inflict quite significant casualties here on the opponent as the skirmishers now dive in. The scout is doing a decent job picking off the eagles, but still pretty much ends up going down to 4 HP, and we are gonna have the skirms now coming in. Nice quick wall over there for Slam. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to turn off the idle villager marker. I might do it in between games or so. And we got Mad Martini, thank you so much for the Prime sub, welcome, I appreciate that a lot. So, we're going to have a stable coming in here for Slam. I'm not really a big fan of this stable location, but he probably feels the need to add some cavalry early on, because eventually Britons will struggle against Skirmisher and Eagle play over here. So Fire's gonna play really aggressive, and considering how open the right side of Slam's base is, he kinda needs something that directly fights this. If the right side was vulnerable, he would be able to hold this one without scouts, most likely, in the defensive position. But considering that this is wide open and his gold mine is very exposed, he will need to get the stable up. Fire actually going for the skirms to try and delay the stable or potentially even deny it as much as possible, but that was impossible. Bit of an awkward pathfinding over here. The skirm came all across over here, as for the time being there's gonna be some scouts being mixed in. Behind this one, we do have a decent amount of resources in the bank for Slams. So far, this skirmisher plus eagle aggression isn't really paying off for Fire. So, here comes the push, and this villager is a little bit isolated. Bit of a mismicro there from Slam, loses a lot of HP on that archer, and now his gold mine is exposed. He will soon be in the need of fighting this, but he's just waiting for scout numbers to pile up. So that's why we are seeing him being a little bit more cautious. And once he has like 3-4 scouts, he will try to focus down the skirms with the scouts, and Feudal Age archers with fletching should be able to beat eagles that do not have fletching. So once you have like 5, 6, 7 archers, you should have no trouble against eagles. Left side, we're gonna have a second range coming in here for Fire, so he's gonna commit quite a lot of resources into this Feudal Age aggression. Even got +1 defense for his archers, but in reality, I don't think that this aggression is actually paying off for Fire over here. And it might actually be wiser to think about going into Castle Age, but he's in a tough spot because his army is apparently going to get pushed back here quite rapidly, +1 defense coming in, so if Slam finishes his walls, I think Slam is gonna be in a way better spot, because there's no way that this army can actually push through these walls if Slam doesn't mess up the defense, and Slam's eco is looking much better suited for going into Castle Age. On the other hand, Fire committed a lot of resources to these upgrades, so Scale Mail, Fletching, defensive upgrade as well for the archers, so that army is pretty scary right now in Feudal Age, and it looks like Slam will be able to go with the walls just in time. There is some Eagles here though, and when there is Eagles, they always help quite a bit at getting through walls, so this is not just a pure army of archers that struggle to get through walls. When there is Eagles in the party as well, they are able to help you quite massively getting through walls. It looks like they're kind of chilling here though. They're just sitting there, chilling, and not doing absolutely anything in the world. Now, speaking of doing anything, this might be the weakest part of the wall, but as I said, if Slam is able to wall up here, he's gonna have no problem defending. He may need to add a house behind here, because this is still a dangerous spot. But nonetheless, Slam is on the way to Castle Age, and when he reaches Castle Age, he's gonna have a decent amount of crossbows, and he should be able to pick off the opponent's army over here, and indeed Fire retreats as well. Fire is on the way to Castle Age, as he got harassed a little bit by some scouts, but there was no villager pick so far, so at this point both players will have a relatively straightforward and good eco. Now, considering Fire went for double ranges, this also means that Fire is gonna have a little bit of a harder time switching into Eagles, and there's a chance he's not going to switch into Eagles, because he would be making new barracks by now if he wanted to switch into Eagles. And I think that not switching into Eagles is something that could backfire really badly, because you can do two things. You can do Eagle switch, or you can potentially do Plumed Archers later on, but Plumed Archers need some time to get to, because you're gonna have to get stone for a castle, and until then, I think the Britons with the extra range, especially considering that we are talking about better production with the archers, and already slightly better numbers in terms of archers, that might be enough for Slam to inflict quite a lot of damage while Fire is sort of unable to defend. Second TC coming in here for Slam. This is the spot that Fire wants to hit, so there's a chance that this TC might go denied, or at least delayed. The archers won't be able to hit the villagers on this side, so you should have no trouble with that. And Slam's timing here is actually gonna be almost perfect. He's gonna have a crossbow and bodkin by the time he arrives, and it looks like he's not going for a wood line, he's actually going for the push right into the base of the opponent. Considering that Fire is not fully walled, this could be devastating. Fire realizes what's going on, but at this point, this is a scramble. And while Fire does have a scary army over here, there is still a wall in between him and Slam, and remember that Slam would have the extra range here on his crossbows, which allows him to pick these guys off from a distance. And currently, as I see it, Fire doesn't really have the tools to stop this push in here. Luckily for him, Slam doesn't have ballistics, but that's the first two wheel picks of the game. And I feel like Slam could have gotten a lot more out of this one. There is going to be University for ballistics as well for Slam though, and free TCs. Fire is also grabbing crossbow here, so he could retaliate immediately. And Slam reacts very, very nicely over here. Once ballistics is in, suddenly this is way worse for Fire. And there's another group of crossbows coming from the south, so his eco is already sort of shattered. And considering that this group of elite skirms doesn't have +2 defense right now, and they also lag behind in range, and they don't have ballistics, Slam can just pick these off from a distance very easily, and that's exactly what we are seeing, and the crossbows will try to do it at the other side. Now here's the deal though, as I said, there is a layer of wall in between these crossbows and Slam's base, but that's no longer the case, so Fire is also able to break in, picks off a will here, but the diagonal walls here from Slam will prevent any further aggression. That's the big difference. Slam was able to go for some contingency walls to ensure that those crossbows won't be able to do that much damage inside his base, whereas Fire wasn't, and right now, it is Fire who is losing massive amounts of wills, he's without gold income, and I feel like this could be a game-ending fight over here, because at this point, Slam doesn't care about losing those crossbows, he just cares about picking off wills left and right, and he is doing so in massive quantities, so that is already 16 will kills, and there's a new group coming in here as well, and we haven't even mentioned the insane amount of idle time that you had on Fire's economy. Fire ends up cleaning this one up with skirmishers, but this is a moment where the Briton player will most likely switch or at least add some knights in here. And from this point on, Well, as I said, the elite skirms here will technically be something that can beat Slam's army. Right now, Fire doesn't really have the economy to make this one work, and he's going to be constantly on the defensive as long as his base is wide open, and the crossbows can just march in here. And meanwhile, Fire is trying to get something for his own army as well. Picks off 2 wheels, which is definitely nice. I feel like the problem is that he has lost 17 in this game, and that might just be too much to overcome. Especially because, keep in mind that Slam is on free TCs, Fire is going to be on free TCs as well, and look at Slam. He's even taking the hill here, microing his best against the crossbows over here, or the elite skirms in this case, over here. This way, if he defeats this army, he can once again push into the base of Fire. And as I said, because of the extra range of Britons, fighting these fights is actually pretty challenging for Fire. He has to commit a lot, especially when he's using his own crossbows. And as I said, if these crossbows win this fight here for Slam, these can march in, and once again, the base of Fire is wide open. He's just now grabbing University for ballistics, and while he has some Eagle Scouts over here, it is fairly obvious that he doesn't really have the Eagle numbers to make a tech switch into Eagle Warriors. And Slam knows that as well. Slam sees the upgrades, Slam sees that these are still Eagle Scouts with +1 defense, and he's going to say, okay, this guy doesn't have an Eagle switch on his sleeve right now. So, crossbows now coming in, and this could be once again devastating here on the wood line of Fire, and Slam is sending 7 to stone, and he's grabbing stone mining, which means that he's thinking about potentially a castle drop. He knows that he wants to finish this fast because Mayans imposed him could be very, very dangerous, but honestly, I feel like this game might already be over based on the massive eco differential that we're seeing, but Slam could finish it with a castle drop, especially here. It would deny gold mine, and that's almost impossible for Fire to overcome from. This is not a live set, it was played yesterday, but this wasn't shown at all, so these are recorded games shown for the first time in an official casting time frame. Now, Fire could definitely get some value for his army over here, and if there is any way for him back into this game, moves like this one are the way to go. So, being able to pick off 6-7 Veils is definitely a good start. I'm not saying it's enough by far to compensate for all the losses that he has had, especially with 2 Mangonels now pushing him, but at least that's the first step in the right direction, I should say. And also it delays the castle for Slam. Fire is actually going for plumed archers. You see he's 15 on stone, and keep in mind that plumed archers should be able to beat crossbows in here. So while the eco advantage is fairly massive here for Slam, Mayans have a cheap army composition, and with plumed archers they could definitely surprise Britons. Still, the advantage should heavily be on the side of Slam here, so I would say there is less than a 10% chance right now that Fire is going to turn this around, but plumed archers might be the way to go if he has any chance of turning this around. Over here, Slam getting closer and closer to going into Imperial. His gold count is a little too low for that though, and he ends up making a TC here on the stone, just in case. As the crossbows of him will actually move to the left side woodline. That's the only woodline that Fire has right now. Like, Fire doesn't even have the army to clean this one knight up here, and this one knight is doing so much work. Look at this. This is so annoying for Fire. I mean, it's one knight with +1 defense, no bloodlines, and that's it. Fire is also trying to come in here, but Slam has theses everywhere because it's Britons. Why was this not shown yesterday? Because they played later than the official playing time frames, and the admins decided that because there would be a break in between the other sets and this one, they decided to push this one back in terms of recorded games. That's basically the scenario. Fire pops out 2 Mangonels, nice idea over here, and he takes down 1. This is a good looking fight over here for Fire. He loses both Mangonels, but it's actually a 2-for-2 trade, so he should be satisfied with this one. This is what is concerning for Fire right now. An Imperial Age coming in from Slam. The good news is that this castle is going up for Fire, which means that he's going to be able to keep his gold mine at least for the time being. And now the question is where Slam is going to place his castle, and the answer is basically nowhere, I should say, because he's nowhere close to dropping a castle. So now Fire is going to start pumping out plumed archers. The thing is that Fire's at 74 wheels, Slam is at 105, and the question that we have to ask is that Slam is going to be in Imperial Age, but what is he going to do in Imp? Because currently I don't really see that army that could be so devastating for Slam. Although, the thing is that 10 range Briton Arbs might be enough. Skirms in theory can hold against that, and Slam doesn't have any siege. So, this is not a part where Slam can attack. This is the part where Slam can really attack. So Fire will need a castle here or so. Oh, Slam runs into the castle fire over here. And as I said, the big thing here for Slam is that he's not going to have any siege immediately. Like, you see that it's going to be full Arbs at best. There's a couple of forward wheels being pulled, so there's a chance we'll see some siege workshops. Nope. He's just going to drop a castle here. He buys a castle, and that's a beautiful spot for a castle. So that's probably the right thing to do here for Slam. But, uh-oh, he's getting forced back, and if that castle is delayed, Fire is going to buy himself some time to get to Imperial. Still, as I said, the situation is very, very grim for Fire over here, but he may not be as dead as we kind of imagine him to be. I saw Slam taking into Elite Skirm first, but now he's apparently going for Arson. He went Supplies, which I understand because he wants champions against the skirmishers. Look at that dance. But Arson this early is an awkward upgrade, I would say. So we're gonna have Fire trying to stop this castle. Remember that denying or delaying the appearance of siege on the battlefield could be life-saving for Fire because he needs to get into Imperial. He's going to click up. I like the preemptive champion play because the thing is that there's a chance that Fire is going to switch back into Eagles, although it very much seems like it's going to be plumed archers, and the thing is that now Fire has 2 defensive castles. I don't really see Slam being able to push his eco. Look at this. This wall is solid. I like how he's adding a pulse side here, knowing that the Arbs could come in this direction. And this castle is also up here protecting this side. Still, Slam has the Imperial Age advantage. And with Arbalest and his own Elite Skirm, especially if he has some champions to deal with the Elite Skirm of Fire, this should still be an advantage for him. Remember that he's got 10 range, and he also has chemistry as well. There is a slim chance here for Fire, but it's a very, very slim chance. He wants to switch into Eagles, and if he's going Eagles, Slam's sort of gamble to go for the champions, which actually pays off. I assume that Slam knows it's going to be an Ego switch as well, because he sees the plumed archers, and Slam is probably like, hey, if he wants to switch into plumed archers, there would be a lot more of them. Still, we have to add something. This game is less over than it used to be 3 minutes ago or so. I still believe that Slam is going to be, like, that would be a massive throw if Slam lost this one, and I like how he's adding stone walls, because he probably knows that there would be some Egos coming eventually. But Fire may have a very, very slim chance over here. He needs to have like one insanely good fight at minimum, and I see Husbandry as well, so we'll probably have some light cavalry in for Slam for raiding. As a couple of plumed archers come in, Slam is also focusing on picking up relics over here, which I really like. And considering that these castles are falling, this will basically mean that this gold mine is gone. Fire's gonna have to go back to this emergency gold mine and this one. He will be able to hold for a while, but he was gonna have to reclaim this one soon. I see quite a lot of barracks with consistent production, but sort of a mistake is that we're not seeing forging. That could have been researched while he was going up, as Elite will be kicked in. The other thing that he needs is Eldorado. Before this castle goes down, he needs Eldorado to have any chance, and the traps are already coming in. Stone Walls will buy some time for Fire, but as I said, he will have to play one big battle. So he's gonna have to snipe the traps and then destroy this entire army to have any shot at this one. And okay, I got scared for a moment. Here's Eldorado. Don't underestimate the Eldorado upgrade for Mayans. That's a very, very, very useful upgrade over here. It was just lag. There is no pause because it's recorded games, and it's the second lag spike we're experiencing over here. I might need to restart my capture age. It's awkward because this is the first time I launched it up, so it might also be a game thing. Eldorado will probably finish before this castle goes down, but that's it. And if the castle goes down, this gold mine is also wide open alongside this wood line. As I said, Fire is gonna have to take one decisive engagement over here. That's his best chance. He's gonna mass eagles. He needs to be patient. Like, as awkward as it sounds, he needs to be patient, but it's so tricky because, guess what? Longsword numbers are actually already on the field. I think this might be the time, although he's not having the attack upgrades. He needs at least +2 here. There is some longswords, but it's only a couple of them. And it looks like Fire is gonna commit. 200 swordsmen just came in though, so it might be enough for Slam to hold, or at least even the battle, especially if Fire is fighting up hills. Fire did fight up hills here, which wasn't ideal, but the swordsmen are sort of gone, or at least some of them. Nope, it's not enough. It's not enough because he was fighting up hills. He was also missing the attack upgrades, and without the attack upgrades, these egos are very underwhelming, so you need at least +2, but preferably +4 as well. And now there is no chance for Fire. So you see that just a handful of 200 swordsmen were able to do so much damage against the eagles here, and now there is going to be a constant trickle of eagles or swordsmen into the base of Fire. I don't think there is a chance here for him. He can't afford a tech switch, and he doesn't even have anything to tech switch into now. So, like, he's trying to take his best fight over here, but look at Slam's upgrades. +2, +4 with champions versus eagles that are still lacking +2 attack. This game was, I think, pretty much over when Slam killed like 16-20 vills from Fire in early Castle Age, but Fire decided to play on, see if he can get something out of this one, but he was just too much behind. He wanted to switch into eagles, but he was so much behind that by the time he switched into eagles, Slam already had champions. And with that, Slam grabs game number 1 over here, as we will go back and take a look at the maps that we are going to take in this set. So let's go back to the lobby, and let me switch off the idle villager indicator, because some people don't like that. So I'm gonna switch it off for the upcoming games, and we will have to add a score here to Slam. And in terms of civilizations, let's take a look at what we have. So Mayans will be gone for Fire, as he lost with them, and Britons will be gone for Slam. So with that, we're gonna jump into game number 2 over here, as we're going to the first home map of Fire, which could be Frigid Lake or Acclivity, and it looks like we're going to Acclivity over here. So welcome to game number 2 over here. We're going to have a relatively aggressive and open map here. In between these two players, we're going to Acclivity. Slime is going to play Franks as red on the left side. Right side is going to be Ethiopians for Fire and red. Considering that the starting base of the players are generally somewhat vulnerable, I actually favor Ethiopians here. I think this map is an archer map, and here's the mind game from Fire. Ethiopian scouts opening. Now that's not something that you generally expect, and oftentimes you see these awkward openings because, you know, you are trying to be surprising your opponent, but that's not going to happen here. Slam sends the scout forward and sees the stable. So I would assume that the reason why we had an opening, like an Ethiopian stable opening, is because probably Fire expected Slam to go straight skirmishers against the Ethiopians, but that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all, and because of that, Slam is actually going to go with his own scouts, and that's a massive advantage for Slam over here. So we're gonna have full wars coming in here soon for Fire, and I still believe that if it's a scout versus scout war, then Franks will have a massive advantage over here. So it looks like the mind games aren't really paying off here for Fire so far. So for the time being, both players will actually end up warning themselves. Slam actually keeps a couple of gold miners over here. That is because he will need 200 gold to go up to Castle Age here. And oftentimes when you do scouts builds, you actually end up keeping some wheels on gold to quickly get the gold that you need to click up to Castle Age, and you don't send all of them away to food. Most people, when they play the scouts build in Empire Wars, they send all the wheels from gold to food immediately. Digoroku, thank you so much for the 11 months of resub. Welcome back. I appreciate that a lot. So, as things stand, both players are fully walled and both players are playing scouts, which means that there is going to be no chance to do damage. So you can think about two things. Number one, go into Castle Age and go Knights, because they have a much better potential at getting through walls. Alternative is to mix in archers. That's in reality just an option to fire over here. The good news for Fire is that he's gonna be able to go camels in Castle Age, which is not something that Slam has a very, very easy answer to. I mean, he can add monks, that's sure, he can add pikemen, but he probably prefers not to tech into pikemen against Ethiopians that will end up going archers anyways, and monks, that could work early on. Other side, there is a hole here, and I'm not sure if Slam knows about that, but he will figure it out in a matter of moments. The bad news for Fire is that he didn't wait until he has his Spearman here as well. The Spearman could have been helpful to deal with Slam's cavalry that's coming here to defend, but it looks like Slam is just content to fight this one with Wills, as he leaves that hole open for a time being, just now pulls a Will to try and wall that one off, and look at that. He just walls out the spears, and in this case I actually like this quite a bit because these scouts should not be able to do any damage. Other side, the scouts cannot do any damage either, so as expected, whoever gets to Castle Age first will probably have the first damage potential. Ethiopians indeed will get instant pikemen as well, which also helps quite a bit against Franks, so in general I like Ethiopians here a lot better than Franks. And these scouts will probably just be destined to die here eventually with the spears chasing. This will shouldn't chase though, because at this point that's just idle time that you don't need. These scouts are very unlikely to do any damage now, because there is no damaged wheels inside. And these scouts are so weak that it should be impossible for them to pick off a wheel. Castle Age times will be pretty even, I would say, both players with Bidax and Horse Color as well. So economy-wise, we're also fairly even, and it looks like Slam is going to continue with the second stable. This will be scouted by Fire, so he knows that it's gonna be a double stable Knights play here. And what is Fire up to? Fire is going for double stables as well. So, look at this. Slam actually made a little house over here to prevent the movement of that scout, and at this point, Fire is just running around. Okay, finally, the scout ends up being poked down, and now it's gonna be scaleboarding. There is a lot of interesting decisions here for Slam. The scaleboarding is something I understand, but I am fairly certain that Slam is anticipating archer switch here. And there's a chance that this is, well, in fact, it's a reality, it's not going to happen. Slam is gonna go for an early TC here on the outside, which I kinda like. Oftentimes players are sort of stuck inside their bases, so the fact that you can move out early and get TC up is actually very, very valuable over here. And it looks like Fire actually wants to play a very aggressive game. He probably knows that Ethiopian camel play is not something that's actually sustainable, but a pikeman and camel push could be very, very devastating over here, and he's already coming in with a Siege Workshop, defensive Siege Workshop coming in here for Slam, as he probably spotted the Siege Workshop coming his way. Indeed, he sees the Siege Workshop, so he's gonna react with his own. The bigger problem for him is that he went for 3 TCs, Siege Workshop, which means no monastery. If there is no monastery, the camels will just steamroll everything alongside the pikemen. So the thing is that currently Slam has no direct answer to the camels, or not even the pikemen, to be honest. Against the pikemen you can still do scorpions, but against the camels that's not so easy. So we will have 3 TCs for Slam. The good news for him is that he has a backup gold mine, so even if he loses this one, it's not the end of the world. Other side, we'll have 2 TCs only for Fire, and it looks like Slam is going to launch a counterattack, which, given the fact that Fire is fully walled, shouldn't do much here. There is no overchop here that could be used, but Fire can actually get a couple of defensive camos out, so these Knight counter raids probably won't do much. Speaking of not doing much, the Mangano is just going to take down these pikemen over here. The first, actually not the first wheel casualty of the game, Slam lost 4 wheels. Because it looks like these Knights actually found some wheel kills here on the north. Definitely some value over here for our yellow player. And now we have a 4-1 villager KD. Slam actually found the wheel kill over here on this TC, but that was it for him. Just one. And for the time being, it looks like Fire will change the angle of attack, and he will start pushing this TC. Slam is actually already mining stone, so there's a chance that he wants to leverage the cheap castles of ranks and go for a defensive castle eventually to handle this Mangano push over here. As the Knights are trying to get in here, there is no defensive camels, instead it's just a couple of pikemen, which will have some mobility issues over here. Still, I feel like Fire's push here isn't convincing me. It's not like it's actually doing anything that hurts Slam, and behind this one Slam has a free TC boom. Fire also has free TCs though, so realistically speaking I think Fire will just convert this into sort of an aggressive gameplay that turns into a boom, because he probably realizes himself that he probably won't be able to push this one easily, so he will just say, okay, I'm gonna keep up the pressure on Slam so he doesn't attack me, and behind this one I will just boom. Slam should know that his opponent is on at least 2 town centers, but potentially 3. And I like how Fire is picking up relics with these monks over here. It's relatively easy to pick these relics up, and you see that he should be on 3 relics soon, which is going to help quite a bit in terms of gold income, as a will is gonna get picked off over here from Slam. So even though Slam actually now has a nice vision on the northern part of the map thanks to those outposts, the wheel is actually going to end up dying, and these Manganos are dangerously exposed over here. As the Knights come in from 2 directions, the Monk gets picked off, and that's a massive miss micro there from Fire. He's going to end up losing a pikeman to a conversion, he's going to end up losing some Manganos. Knights will be taken down in exchange, so the cost efficiency of this fight wasn't amazing for Slam, but this was still an amazing, well, not an amazing, but an acceptable fight for him. He took down the Manganos with relatively little investment. He lost a couple of Knights, potentially, but still 3 or 4 Manganos being taken down here alongside some conversions on pikemen and the Monk also getting picked off is reasonable value, I would say, for Slam. So now we will have a free TC play from both players, as both of them are actually progressing towards Imperial. Eventually Fire is gonna have to make a switch into Arbalest, something that I don't see just yet. Slam is getting close to dropping a castle though, so you're gonna have to push right now if you're Fire. He's trying to do it, he's trying to get a shot in on the Monks, ends up taking on the Scorpion, but the Monks will actually go back to the town center. So at this point, if this castle goes up, I think the final chance for Fire to push the base of Slam is going to evaporate. Beautiful move once again from Slam. He picked off a Mangano, and now he picks off a Monk over here with the Knight, and Fire's not reacting. Hello? This was an awkward moment. Fire didn't react to the Knight, but the Knight also kind of ignored the Monk over here, and because of that, Fire is just going to end up saving his own Monk over here. Nonetheless, we are having a bit of a raid over here. It's actually a fairly big raid from Fire. It looks like while Slam was busy microing that, he's going to get raided, and I see at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 villas being picked off, which still just means that the villager count is even, but if you look at the Vil KD, it's 10-0. So it's interesting to look at the fact that, you know, on paper, Fire should have a massive advantage. No. Fire. You haven't just done that, right? No. That's cruel. Not 1, but 2 Manganos firing on that poor deer. No. Farley Mitch, thank you so much for half a year of resub. I appreciate that. Welcome. Welcome. Oh, poor deer. That was just a misclick from Fire, but still feels bad for that little deer. So both players will be up to Imperial basically at the same time, and Fire is also mining stone quite heavily. Makes me wonder if you're seeing a forward castland as I'm finishing my sentence. There is the castle. The alternative would have been to drop the castle on this ridge and sort of secure the map control with that, but it looks like Fire wants to play this one aggressive. And now the main question is what unit compositions the players will go for. Because it seems like Slam is just gonna go for knights in the end, but that helps the Ethiopian player if they want to play with just full Halberdier. In this one, it looks like Fire is going to switch into Arbalest though, and that hurts for him. Because early on the Arbalest will not have the number to fight against early Cavalier, so that could be something that's concerning for Fire over here, especially because he's just not taking into fletching. Fire will not have the upgrades in by the time he reaches Imperial, whereas for Slam, he's also missing a lot of upgrades, but with Franks, you just need to get the +2 defense before you reach Imperial, and then grab +4 defense and Cavalier, and you should be all good. The Mangano from Slam over here is going to take down one, but guess what? Slam loses a TC here, and while there is some monks here to get the conversions in, I feel like this would be a moment for Fire to pop out a couple of Shotel Warriors. Because you could easily get a couple of them out, take down some of the monks and run in for some massive raiding. Nice quick walls from Fire over here to prevent the knights from running in. And as I said, he's gonna switch into Arbalest, but he's just now on the crossbow level. He's still missing ballistics, he's missing thumbring, he's missing chemistry, defense upgrades for the archers, and overall, he's missing numbers. So we are seeing one crossbow on the field right now, which buys some time for Slam to mass his own knights, but reality is that Slam doesn't have gold. Slam has run out of this gold mine, and I don't see basically any reasonable gold income for Slam. He's at 0 gold, and that is a massive concern right now for the Canadian over here, because right now, if he had like 15 Cavalier, which if he had gold income he would be able to have, then there would be no problems. But if he's given time, like if he gives time to Fire, Fire is gonna have like 30-40 Arbs, and then you don't stop this one, right? So indeed, Slam is just gonna call the GG over here as the Arbs march into his base, and here is the deal, Fire didn't have a big army. These were Arbalests with Bracer, no chemistry, no defense upgrades, no thumbring, not even ballistics, yet you still are going to lose half of your eco here because you just don't have the army and not have the gold. So as early as Slam moved out for the extra gold mine on the outside, he never expanded towards additional ones, and while obviously the locations weren't great for him, so this one is kind of far out, and this one is also not in an easy spot, this was still Fire all over the place. He was a little bit more proactive, and I kind of felt like after early Castle Age, Slam never really bothered at really focusing on combat, to be honest. With that, Franks will be gone for Slam, and we will have Ethiopians gone for Fire, and Fire takes his own home map over here, so acclivity in the hands of the Brazilian as we're going back into the lobby. And this will move us to either mountain range or meadow. So let's see what we can have over here for game number 3. I also have to edit the score. Right now we're at a 1-1 scoreline. The winner gets into the deciders. The deciders will be played live today. As far as I know, the winner of this one plays its deciders as the last player. So they will have, well, they already have time to take a break because technically they played this yesterday evening. But still, they are going to be, I think, the last playing. So we're going to Meadow over here, one of the more open and aggressive maps, which is an interesting decision from Slam, given the fact that I think the aggressive playstyle should favor Fire a little bit based on what we have been seeing. So, welcome to Meadow. We are gonna have a Slam on the right side in red, and on the left side we're going to have Magyars for Fire in yellow. Magyars is the traditional Civ pick for this map with, you know, the aggressive opening, with the ability to switch into Cav Archers. All of these add up to a very, very nice civilization. The scouts opening is usually not really reasonable though, because as you see, the players can vote their wood lineup, and archer opening in feudal isn't really reasonable either, because a defensive tower will prevent all archers from being able to inflict damage. On the other side, Slam is going to play Aztecs, which could be a devastating civilization if they are given the ability to pick up all 5 relics in the middle. Walls are coming up here for fire all the way to the north. Whereas on the right side, it looks like Slam is just gonna go for the wood line walls, and that is basically it. We are going to have archers and the scouts coming in from fire over here, so he's gonna go very, very heavy on feudal age. Eventually, because he's making a stable and a range, it's very possible that we would have a cav archer switch. Although it's interesting because against Aztecs, cav archers is a questionable decision with good skirms and good eagle switch. It might be more reasonable eventually for Magyars to go for the +2 knights. Anyways, Slam is actually going for a super greedy play over here. I don't see any combat unit being made here. He just has a barracks and that's it, and he's going for market. I would assume that if he's doing this, then Slam probably wants to go for a basically stone-selling fast castle over here, with probably triple barracks eagles, a forward monastery over here to pick up the relics, and then push the opponent and make sure that he can convert the knights. That would be the most reasonable thing, I would say. The scouts here aren't really inflicting a lot of damage, but this is a big gamble for Slam. If there is one hole on his walls, he's going to start losing vills big time. The good news for him is that his gold mine is relatively safe, and indeed, he's not even selling his stone. I thought he would be selling his stone to go up, but it looks like that's not the case. And considering that Fire is playing a very aggressive feudal age, there is 2 possible outcomes to this one. If Fire is able to deny resources and inflict some damage here on Slam, then Slam is going to lose this one really fast. Alternative is that Fire is unable to do damage, and then Slam should snowball this in Castle Age, but now there's archers, and I'm not sure if Slam was expecting this one, and you see that Slam is gonna have to run back home over here, and suddenly his villas are all exposed. I think there's gonna be at least one villa being picked off here. Boom, that's going to be one villa being picked off, and the archers are just enough to deny this gold mine. I would love to see Fire keeping one archer over here, just to deny that. Now, truth being told, the gold miners over here for Slam will still have a relatively easy way of getting gold, and we are already just 1 minute away from Castle Age here, so as I said, while it seems scary, if Fire isn't able to do significant damage here in Feudal Age with his play, and considering that this tower is going up, the wood line is gonna be impossible to push. The only place where you can be aggressive at is the gold mines and the farms potentially. But since they're close to the TC, the vills can always just run back, so the best thing that you can potentially hope for is idle time. Nonetheless, that's going to be one more vill pick over here. Still, at this point, I think Slam is gonna be okay saying that I lost 3 vills. It's not ideal, but his strategy was built heavily on tanking out Feudal Age, going for a greedy fast castle, because now it's Slam all over the place though. So he's gonna get Castle Age, now he's gonna have better production of eagles, and once he gets eagle warriors, he can clean up the archers, and a fast monastery would ensure that he can pick up 5 relics in the middle to compensate for his villager losses. Considering that Magyars don't have any like steady eco bonus, that also helps quite a bit here for Aztecs that, you know, I don't think that Slam's eco is ahead compared to his opponent. In fact, I think it's somewhat behind, but it's not an insurmountable deficit. The bigger problem for Slam right now is that his food count isn't really great, so while this is technically a triple barracks eagle play, reality is that it's more like 1 barracks eagle production and the other 2 is just watching. So, and that's the biggest problem that Slam is facing right now. If this was a consistent eagle production, then he would have like 10-15 eagles by now and he would overrun Fire's base. If 10 eagles show up here, Fire is dead. Because the eagles can tank a lot of arrow fire, so they can just run around, deny the farms, deny the gold mines, and make it very difficult for Fire to end up going for knights. Fire is actually adding some scouts, so there's a chance that we will even see light calf here. And he's gonna go for triple stable, probably knights. Cancels the 3rd stable though. So, we're gonna have the monks coming in here. I don't like this for Slam though. I feel like at this point, another monastery here is a waste. So, while I appreciate that he's trying to pick up the relics here, he should have made up his mind. If he makes his monastery over here, I think he probably needs eagle numbers above all. So obviously Slam is going to be playing super aggressive over here, and he's now going to pick up the relics, which will help quite a bit in terms of gold income. But maybe a fast redemption could work. Because if he grabs a fast redemption, he could convert the stables, or at least force fire to lead them, and that could help quite a bit, containing the possible damage the knights will cause on him. So it's gonna be 5 Relics Aztecs over here most likely, as the eagle numbers are growing. Only +1 defense on the eagles, though there is also quite a lot of spearmen, and pikemen will be added as well. I like the pikeman addition quite a bit. So it's going to be more of a pike and siege approach rather than a monk and siege one, as there is no upgrades on the monks just yet. If you get sanctity, that would be extremely helpful, as we now have fire massing knights over here. Fire also has a monk or a monastery over here to convert the knights back that he's about to lose, but at this point he's just now grabbing bloodlines. I feel like Fire's army is not convincing me. While there is +2 attack for sure. What? What? Light cavalry counters monks confirmed. Lol. Lol. I would be so tilted if this happened to me. What was that? It was like 5 seconds conversion on 2 light cavs. It's double conversions on the light cavs. Oh my goodness. I mean, they had some conversion time already because they were converting them, but still, I mean, it's light cavs. So now battering rams is the good decision. Over here, Fire is going to react with a siege workshop. That's the right thing to do here, and this is why I believe that Slam, if he really wants to push on with this one, he needs redemption and probably sanctity as well on his monks. But redemption would be a great thing to have because he would be able to convert the mangonels, and he would just be able to go and say, okay, I'm gonna convert your range, right? So at this point, monks are now pushing up. Only 2 monks over here, as Fire is trying to loop around, try to pick off the monks, as that's not gonna happen, and the eagles end up finishing the monk of Fire over here. Meanwhile, second TC coming in for Slam over here, as he ended up grabbing 100 extra stone from the market, so he can actually have an eco behind this one. And the mangle is out for Fire, but reality is that he's not actually shooting at this ram, so the ram is actually going to take down the stable here. That's not ideal for Fire. I'm not sure if Fire knows that his opponent doesn't have redemption yet. I think had he known that, he could have just stood here with the mangonel and take down that ram. Now his base is open, and guess what? There is redemption monks over here. Now, redemption and sanctity are basically a must to have together, as we have a mangonel converted. The converted mangonel takes a shot, but it ends up being unsuccessful. The pikemen join the fun, as I think this is still a great fight for Slam over here. There is just not enough knights here for Fire to fight this one, and they also seem to derp out a little bit as the pikemen join the party. Funnily enough, Slam only has +1 defense on his unit, so he doesn't even have good upgrades, and he's up against +1/+2 knights, but that's it. There is no more army here for Fire, and indeed, Slam is going to take this game over here with Aztecs. Aztecs, I think, is a very, very sneakily good civilization for this map, because this map, even though it seems very open, is actually somewhat well defendable. The wood line is very easy to defend in theory, because you can vault around and make a defensive tower against archers, and the gold mines are safe enough, apparently, to allow for a fast castle play overall, and for common request, that's 1000 gold for Slam in basically 8 minutes, because he was at Castle Age at 7, so he started picking up relics at about 8 minutes or so, and the game was 16 minutes, so 8 minutes, 1000 gold for Slam. That's why Aztecs are so brutal on this map. 5 relics is an insane amount of gold, which is so important when you are playing 1 TC like Slam and Fire are doing, so 5 relics here is a massive eco boost. And now Slam moves to a match point over here. Winning would mean that he moves into the decider sets later today. Quick update to the civilization lineup. We will have an Aztec victory, and we will have a Magyar defeat over here as a medal is taken by Slam. And with that, we now have a 2-1 scoreline in the favor of Slam, as we will jump into the fourth game over here. We're going to the other home map of Fire. That is going to be Frigid Lake. So welcome everyone to Frigid Lake. We're going to have an interesting layout of the map here. We don't have the players on the direct opposite sides, and you see that Fire is in here, and he's like, I'm on the left, my opponent has to be on the right, so he's scouting over here. But reality is that they're actually pretty close to each other. Slam is going to play Tatars in red, an awkward civilization at minimum. Indians is a slightly better choice here because of the shore fishing ability, but I'm somewhat surprised not to see Khmer over here, especially, well, Khmer was sniped, that's why. I forgot about that. So Khmer was picked by Slam, and it was sniped by Fire. That is why we're not seeing Slam going for Khmer, and that's why the somewhat awkward pick of Tatar is, could be here. And what did Fire do here? Fire? That wasn't really a wise choice, if you ask me. What was that? He trapped the Feudal Age Scout with one will, and then ends up losing that will. I mean, at this point, Slam lost his Scout, but I think Slam is gonna be very happy to trade one will off to a Scout. So, that was an awkward decision there from Fire. He was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trap you in here, and Slam is probably like, whatever. It's actually going to be a good trap. So, let's see. We're going to have a Scouts opening here for Slam. Going for his walls, he actually has a relatively wallable base. One thing that is a bit concerning for him is the lack of wood. Like, in general, the lack of resources here at the back could be somewhat concerning. The good news is that you can actually use this space to farm very nicely. Fire is actually gonna go for the long walls over here all the way on the left side. Right side, he's going to play pretty much wide open. In here, he's gonna have a back gold, so he will be safe, and he's also playing Scouts. Speaking of Scouts, it looks like Fire is trying to keep this position open, and look at Slam over here with a quick wall, trying to make sure that that Scout cannot run past. The additional Scouts cannot join this one, so this guy is going to be isolated from the rest of the group and will just forever run around inside the base of Slam. No docks on the middle just yet from anyone, as we have the shorefish running out. So here's the deal. Tatars aren't amazing civilization here, but this map could be a Cav Archer style map, so Tatars could make some sense. Indians isn't an amazing civilization for this map either, but technically they can play Cav Archers or Camels, so I can see both of these civilizations being legitimate in this matchup. Still, we're gonna have a Scout mirror for the time being, as Fire is gonna be finished walling himself off. He will need to add a second layer here because this is so far away from his base to repair, so he's gonna have to ensure that his opponent can break through here easily. But it looks like Fire wants to play a defensive style game, because as things stand, he's not sending out his Scouts, he will just stay here for the time being. Slam, on the other hand, is going up on the north with the Scouts, but there should be no way to get into the opponent's base over here as a market comes up for Fire. Interesting that he's actually going up with a market in this one. I'm not sure if he needed that, but anyways, Slam would probably be very happy if he had a market, because he's a little bit too high on gold and a little bit too low on food to click up to Castle Age over here. Nonetheless, it looks like we're gonna have an archer range, so classic Scouts into Cav Archers play from Slam over here. Whereas for Fire, he's gonna click up to Castle Age first, and he will probably just play with Camels. So if you're playing camels here, you probably want to be aggressive because you don't want those cav arch numbers to rise to the skies. So you probably want to maybe even go for triple stable camels, especially with Indian camels having anti-building bonus. It would make quite a lot of sense to just go for a super aggressive triple stable camel play and try to win the game before your opponent can get to good cav arch numbers, because once we have 20 plus CA here, it's gonna be rough to fight against. It's going to be triple range CA anyways. And crossbows for Slam. Interesting. He's probably expecting the camels, that's why. So here's the deal. If Slam goes for crossbows here, then that is definitely going to take down the camels, but Tatars don't have arbalests, so you have to win this game with crossbows. But the truth is that Indians struggle quite badly against crossbowmen because they don't have their own knights, especially if they tech into the knight line. The best thing they can do is mangonel, so crossbow mangonel might actually beat camel mangonel over here. The good news for Fire is that he sees it. So he knows that it's gonna be crossbow play over here, and with that he can probably tech into light cavalry, which might be his best choice. He's going for +2 defense, and indeed he's going light cav. So Indian light cav in Imperial is nothing special, but in Castle Age they do have one extra pierce armor compared to their counterparts for other civilizations. So Indian light cav is actually a reasonable answer against crossbows, although it's not as good as knights would be. Defensive Siege Workshop coming in here for Fire as the crossbows are marching towards the wood line over here. Fire is going to evacuate that. Fire already has a second TC up here, so he's going to go for a much more eco-heavy approach in this one. And as I said, this is why you second layer these walls. There's actually a gap here in between these two houses, I believe. So breaking through this palisade will allow you to move into the base of the opponent. But here's the light cav. And as I said, 5 pierce armor is nothing to be ashamed of, especially when the crossbow numbers aren't brutally high. And now we have the cav archers coming in for Slam. So it looks like he just made crossbows in an effort to, you know, have some sort of army in early Castle Age, or so maybe secure a position for a forward siege workshop. Maybe make Fire research light cav. That could also be an idea. But now Slam is going to start getting those cav archer numbers up high, which means that Fire is going to have to switch into camels. Otherwise, Fire could be in trouble, because you don't want Slam to get to like 20 plus cav archers, especially considering they already have Thumbring. Ballistics Husbandry is just now coming in, which means that the only upgrades that they will be missing is Bloodlines and the defense upgrades. But defense upgrades are not that important at this very moment, so if they grab Bloodlines, it's gonna be perfect. And now it looks like all these light cav will probably go down. Fire clearly sees that he's up against cav archers now, so let's see if we are seeing camels. And the answer is no. The answer is that Fire is just booming here, not even making any army. Slam is also going to switch into a boom though, and this may not be something that Fire is expecting. So Fire sees the triple ranges. Fire might think that, hey, my opponent is gonna go super aggressive here with a forward siege workshop or so, but reality is that we're once again going to see a big boom here from both sides. So Fire is now adding some camels over here for himself. He's already on 3 TCs, has a 7 wheels lead over the opponent, as Wheelbarrow is coming in for both. Upgrades otherwise are very, very similar over here, as the light cav will try to keep track of the crossbows and the cav archers over here. And yeah, that's basically it. Fire is still amassing camels back at home, but at this point, Fire is just counting on his walls to hold him. Now, truth being told, if he actually second layers these walls, then it's gonna be really hard for Slam to go through those, and eventually Fire's greedy boom here could actually pay off. So, looks like the light cav will once again launch a counterattack, as that starts to become a scary force here from Slam. I like how Slam has added a couple of knights, because those will help getting through the walls, and more importantly, they can also snipe Scorpions, Mangonels if needed. And suddenly this force, like Knights and Cav Archers and Crossbows, could actually be a lot more devastating. And adding a second layer behind this one for fire is going to be challenging at minimum. So he can actually second layer this one relatively easily. But defending this side of his base is gonna be hard. That's a nice move over here. Fire can add one more house behind, and that is something that shouldn't be in the range of these crossbows. The Knights break in. Fire for now is just going to camp behind these walls, and I think these houses could have come in a little bit faster for him. And now he's in trouble, because the army numbers are definitely better for Slam, and as I said, I think Fire sort of underinvested into army over here. We're talking about 9 camos only. But here's a big sandwich. Do you want some tomatoes into that sandwich, my sir? Because that is going to be a beautiful move, but all of that could go down the drain if the Knights reach the Scorpions, and that's an awful fight, I believe, for Fire. Although he cleans up the army of Slam. Was it an awful fight? I mean, he lost 4 Scorpions for little value, but he definitely cleaned up Slam's army over here. Now he's behind by 4 vills though, so it's sort of the fight where, I'm not saying that it was an awful fight for Fire, but it wasn't great either, because he lost so much value in those Scorpions. Regardless, Fire is able to contain the damage, and that's the most important thing for him. Speaking of containing damage though, Disaster strikes on the other side as more vills are getting picked off, and it looks like Slam is on fire over here. Get it? Slam is on fire, as Fire is now down by 11 vills after all those were taken down, and that's basically the villager difference between the two players right now. If the 4TC goes up for Fire, obviously he's gonna be able to come back in terms of economy, but still, it's not ideal that there is so many vills being picked off. But I love how he actually revolved this one really fast, because you see that Slam is trying to poke around again. He's like, okay, what if Fire didn't revolve this? I can just send in my Cav Archers and pick off a couple of vills over here real fast. So we're gonna have battering rams on the way, and now I feel like Slam is going to be in a bit of a trouble here, because the thing is that his Cav Archer numbers are decent, but that's quite a lot of camos, and the light Cav act is a perfect bullet sponge over here. And once the stable goes down, suddenly there is no Knights to deal with Scorpions, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some Scorpions being added into the mix, as the Knight is trying to take down that group of rams. Over here, the Cav Archers are still missing bloodlines, so once the camos can close the distance, suddenly they actually become a lot more efficient. On the other hand, I don't like how Fire is splitting off some camos from his main group. He needs all camos together to have a chance at taking down this army, and he kind of leaves those rams to just die after seeing that big blob of Cav Archers. This is why I think he should have played a little bit more aggressively, because you see how many Cav Archers Slam has already. Lowering those numbers or just keeping them under control would have been so important for Fire over here, and we're talking about 3 light Cav and 6 camos versus 25 Cav Archers already. Now, as I said, Indian camos can still be devastating over here, especially considering that they have reasonable pierce armor, but Fire is in the desperate need of numbers. He's gonna have some Scorpion shots being lined up over here, Slam microing away nicely, but he still needs to be cautious because, as I said, he's without bloodlines, so Scorpions going for the shots in grouped up Cav Archers could be very devastating in this one. Fire probably needs at least 2 more stables to pump out some more camos, as he's just now doing that, but he doesn't have a consistent production or so in this one, which helps quite a bit for Slam to contain the damage here. And the truth is that at this point, I think Slam is holding. The ecos are still very close, but as I said, the long-term better situation is probably for Tatars in here, because their Cav Archers will preserve their value really nicely over time, and also, once you get to like a good Cav Archer numbers, even camos won't stop you. In terms of resources though, Fire is getting closer to Imperial Age, and indeed, Is he actually gonna go for a forward castle here? A forward castle is definitely a possibility with 18 on stone, and I don't see Slam's numbers being that amazing anymore, and that Bloodlines missing now starts to become a very, very critical issue for Slam, because as the camos and light caps close the distance, as the scorpions are shooting at those cav archers, having that 20 extra HP would be extremely valuable here for Slam, and this is the moment to strike for fire if he wants to drop a forward castle. We will see if that's the idea, but nope, he's gonna go for defensive castle, and now the question is, are we gonna see elephant archers? Because elephant archers might not be that bad as a unit here. It would actually be an amazing unit to deal with cav archers, and you don't really need mobility when the two players are so close to each other, so maybe, just very maybe, we might see elephant archers. That would be a stylish play from Fire, for sure. Light cav coming in on the right side, and that's a disaster for Slam. He's going to dispatch the cav archers to deal with this one, but that's basically going to be the majority of his eco lead being evaporated over here on the right side, and Fire is going to click up into Imperial in this moment. Slam is not far away, but does still have the buildings actually. He's got a university, and Slam doesn't have the buildings. He's rushing up a monastery with 15 vills, and that is because he didn't have the buildings here. That's going to set him back by 20 seconds or so. 5 TCs will be up for Slam, as the Vill count is pretty much even right now, and no elephant archers. Feels bad. It looks like we'll just have 4 camels, and considering that Fire is gonna be faster to Imperial, he's gonna have time for heavy camel over here. Still, he will probably need Imp Camel to have any chance at fighting against massive groups of heavy CA, especially if Slam finally grabs Bloodline, something that he's going to add, better late than never. A couple of Scorpions are still being added over here as the Light Cav. Oh, that's a great find. That's a great find for Fire over here. And things like these is not something that Slam can afford right now. Losing Vills left and right to Light Cav raids like this one is definitely painful. Because now the Vill count is getting closer and closer. Slam should have had a massive lead here, but now the Villager KD is actually pretty close. Slam is going to contest the left side of Fire's base over here, so there is a chance we're going to see a defensive castle here by Fire on the left side. And Fire is also very, very heavy on Light Cav, apparently. So he still wants to go for raids, and oh, Slam, what are you doing? What are you doing, Slam? You have a good group of cav archers, you don't want to throw away this game by having all your Vills massacred. So, Hussar coming in, as Fire is going to make the most underwhelming Scorpion push over here against the castle that I've ever seen. That is a scary group of cav archers, that's the main problem Fire is facing. 56 cav archers, soon to be heavy CA with Bracer and Chemistry. That is overly concerning, I should say. Especially when you don't have heavy camo in just yet, so you don't really want to fight this one if you are Fire, as he's now queuing up Trebs to deal with this castle. Slam will be able to mix in some Kashyyyk here as a relatively cheap bullet sponge, and as I said, this is not a good fight for Fire. Fire just doesn't have the numbers. And that's something that he's been struggling with constantly in this game. Production is a serious issue for him. You see that he's got heavy camo queued up here, but that takes so much time to research, and it's so surprising that we are still only at 4 stables for Fire. He probably needs like 6-7 at this point, especially with his Scorpions getting cleaned up in the middle. I feel like Fire has been falling apart in the last 2 or 3 minutes, as now the cav archers will dive in. The Vills are building a new TC over here for whatever reason. Don't ask me why they're building one right next to the other one, because there is like still space inside for the Vills to jump in. That would also be awkward. Trebs are coming in for Fire, but these are unprotected, so a single Kashyyyk can dive in and actually snipe that. Slam actually commits to this fight quite heavily, but this might backfire. Get it? Backfire. Because now his army is a little bit trapped in here, but we didn't have these walls double layered. And that's something that Fire is going to pay the price for. Cav Archers inside your eco now is a disaster, and this might be a game-winning move here for Slam. Because, while Fire is definitely working towards grinding that castle down and taking down the traps of the opponent, reality is that his eco is going to collapse completely, and he doesn't seem to have the army to clean this one up. That many Cav Archers inside your eco is an absolute disaster, and compared to this one, Fire isn't able to inflict any damage on Slam's economy. Now come the heavy camos, but as I said, I think if you're playing against Cav Archers, you're gonna have to play very aggressively, because once the opponent has like 50 CA, it's very hard to clean up. Camos coming in for Blast Furnace over here, as Fire is gonna lose his castle here on the left side as well. I feel like Slam is just simply outclassing Fire over here. Slam has had a huge amount of Cav Archers in the consistent production, whereas Fire always struggled with army numbers in this one. So at this point, this castle might go down, but does that matter? At this point, Slam can just camp beneath that TC and kill 25 more vills. These Cav Archers only have 4 Pierce Armor even. Like, this could be 7, 8 Pierce Armor for those CA. And that will make it even harder for Fire to clean those up. Now, it looks like the reason why Fire is not tapping out is because he believes he has something going for him over here, and truth of the matter is that he has breached the base of his opponent, so Hussars might be able to make miracles here, but as long as this army is alive, this seems almost impossible for our yellow player over here. And Slam is very close to getting to play in the Deciders. I think... has Slam ever qualified for Bull Wololo? Because this might be a good chance for him, because it's one thing that he's in the Deciders, it's also because he's playing really good, I think. So, Slam is having a good day so far now. Look at this. Tatar's heal advantage with Cav Archers destroying traps over here as well. And, yeah, I feel like at this point Fire is trickling in camos against Cav Archers, and this army is still alive. And by the time Fire cleans this one up, there is gonna be a next group soon for Slam. I feel like Slam is very unlikely to let this slip out of his grasp. So, let's see. Fire needs to, like, Fire's got one chance here. He needs to assemble, like, one big force, destroy this one, then fix his economy, play a long game, and try to raid his way back into his game. This is the only shot for Fire, basically. But, even then, it seems like a very, very, very small chance. Like, you see that he's sending in a small group of units, all of them gets cleaned up, and then these Cav Archers are still here, rampaging his eco. And we're talking about 9 army against 41, and as I said, there is going to be always more for Slam. He's just now grabbing a heavy Cav Archer, and as I said, he's missing, I think he's missing Silk Armor as well. Defensive Castle coming up here for Fire, but honestly, really, as weird as it sounds, an Elephant Archer is actually one of the more legitimate options to clean this one up right now for Fire, but it looks like Slam will just disengage for the time being. He is at 106 villagers. I feel like I have the same feeling as I had in the first game. Fire may have a very, very, very narrow chance here, but he's so much behind that it seems nearly impossible, and I feel like if those Cav Archers don't break into his base, it would have been probably a much better situation for him overall, but after those broke into his base, that was almost GG time. So, it looks like Slam has mastered the art of Cav Archers from Doubt, and now he's also using them to perfection here in Bull Wololo, as he's going to do a bit of a push on the right side. He's gonna have to be careful though, because it's quite a lot of Hussar and Camos jumping on him, but that's actually a fairly sizable force here from Fire. And the truth is that Fire is at 114 vills. I may have spoken too soon, because Fire's economy is not that bad. I still believe that Slam should have like an 80% plus chance of winning this one, but Slam has to be cautious because games could be thrown away if they actually last longer than they should. Now Slam is bringing in the traps though, that's basically what he has to do. Go for the traps, take down the castles. F1re knows that, and F1re is going to dive in with the light cav, try and snipe the traps. He sees that there's a lot of CA and the traps are withdrawing, so he's just going to disengage as well. That buys some time for his own castle over here, and it would be a massive mistake not to revolt this though, because that would allow Slam to break into the base of F1re. Slam still has the better army, as Imp Camel is coming in though. Now Imp Camel could be a completely different scenario here. That could be something that Tatars struggle against, as Ring Archer Armor is in for the archers or Cav Archers now. The castle's gonna go down over here, and now the Cav Archers break into the base, just like, you know, in reality, where villas are fleeing from the Tatar hordes. That's actually gonna happen over here, but F1re actually wants to do a sandwich here. A little bit mistimed though, because the Hussars die by the time the Camels come in from each side. But this could still be a good fight here for F1re. He's going to surround a decent amount of Cav Archers. Still, as I said, he doesn't have the military numbers, and that's something that was the case for him the entire time. F1re calls the GG, and Slam moves on to the Deciders. Slamboy trying to become another Gamer Legion member to represent GL in Red Bull Wololo. Slam is in. He had a very, very solid performance all over, so the acclivity game was awkward, but other than that, he played very, very clean, I would say. So the Runestones game was nice, the previous game on Meadow was very well executed, and this one was also played really well. So he transitioned to a free TC boom nicely from a triple range Cav Archer play. Always did a good job preserving his Cav Archer numbers, and 94 will skill to 40, I think tells the story overall. So Slam's got a real chance at qualifying for the main event of Red Bull. I'm gonna have to check who he is up against, because I don't remember who he would play in the final set. Slam would be up against the winner of Ganji versus Valas. That is, I think, an awesome opportunity for Slam, because let's be honest, while Ganji and Valas are both good players, they are not actually considered elite. So it's not like Slam is getting someone like, I don't know, Taro or Nikov or Miguel or so. So both of these players should be sort of the underdogs against Slam. Slam has a very, very good chance of qualifying, and dare I say, he may have actually played his harder games over here. So he went through Stark to get into this set, now defeated F1re, and he might even face a slightly weaker opponent than F1re in the next round, we will see. But Slam has a realistic chance of qualifying, as we will see him in the Deciders later today.